You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
TIAA is on a mission. Why? Because 54% of Black Americans don't have enough savings to retire. So in collaboration with big-name artists like Wyclef Jean, TIAA released Paper Right, new music inspiring a new financial future. With 100% of streaming sales going to a nonprofit that teaches students how to invest. Stream Paper Right now and help close the gap.
Hey, what is up, good people? Welcome to another episode of the Tone Mob Podcast. This week, I am talking to Nicole Papastavrou from Kallias. She is an epic guitarist. She is in a heavy band, and she's an ice climber, which we get into on the Patreon section of the podcast. I want to get right into this episode because it's very good. And I know you already heard a little bit of ad stuff, and there's going to be some more. And if you don't like that, you can go to Patreon and get the ad-free episodes. But I wanted to let everybody know that the summer of Stringjoy is coming to a close. If you haven't been paying attention, the summer of Stringjoy means we've been giving away a guitar every single month all summer long. And this month we are closing it out with a huge bang. We are giving away a Gibson Les Paul Standard that Scott and I personally selected from 5 Star Guitar here in Portland, Oregon. And let me tell you, this thing is epic. I really don't want to give it away. I want to keep it for my own self, but I don't get to. So it will be shipping from 5 Star Guitar at the end of the month once we've selected a winner. You can go to stringjoy.com for all the details, but basically make any purchase from us or one of our dealers and you can be entered into the contest. Go to stringjoy.com for the full rules and all the exclusions and all that stuff. But yeah, check that out if you want to win a Gibson Les Paul Standard, and who doesn't want to win a Gibson Les Paul Standard? Oh yeah, and don't forget to use code TONEMOB at checkout for 10% off. That's TONEMOB, all one word, at checkout for 10% off. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into this episode with Nicole. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Tone Mob Podcast, the show about guitar stuff, occasionally, sometimes. I'm your host, Blake Weiland, and with me today, I can't even say my last name right. I'm terrible today. I'm your host, Blake Weiland, and with me today, I have Nicole Papastavrou from Kallias. What's going on?
How's it going? Thanks for having me, Blake.
Yeah, this is a good time. Look at all those guitars back there. You got a nice little setup going.
Yeah, got my boat.
I do. That's nice.
It's a full boat.
I like that. Great.
All Jackson.
I was going to ask. I see a lot of pointy headstocks, but I wasn't sure if they were all the same pointy headstock. So
only pointy headstocks.
I dig it. Well, let's start there. How did you get into playing, and what led you to this realm of pointy headstocks?
How did I get into playing? That's so we're going way back.
Way back. Yeah, way back.
Okay, so I was like 9 or 10 years old, and my parents told me I had to like pick an instrument to play. So I remember my dad. It's so random. My dad used to bring home laser discs of live Garth Brooks shows.
Oh, wow. Kindred spirits we are. Look at that.
I know. So, and mind you, I never got into country ever, but I remember like seeing a live show of him smashing his guitar on stage. And then that just made me want to play guitar because I thought that was pretty badass. I've never smashed a guitar to this day. I think because I've liked my guitars too much.
Sure.
But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. And then, I started getting drawn in more to heavier music that I was hearing on the radio. I didn't have anyone in my family that was musical or to influence me at all, except my grandma on my Jordanian side. She actually played the oud.
Okay.
So that is the only person on both sides of my family that played any instrument. So I guess it maybe counts for something. It's a stringed instrument.
I think it counts. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but nobody was like into like metal or rock or anything like that. It was for the most part, like a lot of like Greek and Arabic music playing around the house. And I don't know, I guess my dad liked Garth Brooks, so there's that too.
He had some rock in there.
Kind of,
a little bit.
a little bit. So yeah, and then from there, like I think I got my first guitar like 9 or 10 and took some lessons. Learned a lot of Jimi Hendrix and then Metallica and Pearl Jam, and started getting like grungier and heavier from there. And and then going into Jackson, I actually started as an EVH artist. So I did have the relationship there with Mike Tempesta, and they've been so good to me. So it just made sense to make the switch to Jackson, and they're really amazing guitars. I feel really lucky to have the amount of USAs that I have.
It's pretty awesome.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
And I have a custom on the way that's waiting, actually just waiting for the case to be made because it's such a crazy shape.
What?
Yeah, the guitar's done, but we're just waiting on this case, and I'm kind of scared because the case is taking a long time.
Oh no.
I'm like, how am I going to be able to carry this thing?
Yeah, how big is it? Like, what is it, like some sort of weird explorer-esque, like huge shape, or what is it?
Sort of. It will be like my most extreme, pointiest guitar. So I might be revealing that in the next week or so, I'm hoping.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So how did your family react? I always like to get this because, you know, when we go down these weird musical paths, especially for those of us that have gotten into heavier music, and sometimes it can be a little bit scary for some of our family who is not necessarily as in tune with the scene or realize that it's not exactly what it may seem from the outside, you know. How did your family react when you started getting into heavier stuff?
They were definitely worried. I grew up in like a very like immigrant household. So this stuff is like really foreign. It's very strict. Like I wasn't like that kid that could just go and hang out at the mall with their friends. It's like as soon as school was out, I had about like 40 minutes to walk home and be home by a certain time. I wasn't like allowed to go to shows or anything like that unless like my dad took me.
Sure.
Or like he would drop me off in the front and then he would be there right when it finished. So that was most of like teenage life.
And what kind of bands were those? What, like who were you seeing at that time?
I remember like going to see local, like in LA, I remember going to see local bands like Avenged Sevenfold at the time when they were still playing the Cobalt Cafe in the Valley. Like it was kind of crazy. You know, and then I moved up to the Bay Area and started getting more into like death metal and stuff. And I discovered, you know, bands like All Shall Perish, Antagony, Animosity. And then I started joining bands by then. So, you know, that's kind of who I was going to see, and, you know, going to like Gilman Street and Berkeley and West Coast Worldwide and Sacramento, because I was living in Sacramento. So, yeah, that's kind of where it really started.
Did your parents like hear this stuff coming through the walls and come knocking on the door like, Nicole, what is going on? How did that happen for you?
Yeah, I mean, you know, like it's not like they could tell me like, oh, don't play that or like whatever. But at the same time, I wasn't like allowed to go to the record store and buy records that had like a parental advisory sticker on it.
Sure.
So that was kind of like, I think where they drew the line. Like
Which
I
just
could
made
listen
you want
to
it more, of course.
I know, of course. Yeah. And even like before that, I think when I was like, I don't know, 11, I tried to buy like a Green Day CD and it had that on it, and that got taken away pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So, you know, I remember finding like a Slayer record. All of them had that sticker except for like one live record that I found. I don't even remember which one it was, and it didn't have it. And I'm like, all right, I guess this is the only Slayer record I can buy. So
Some of this is
So,
very
yeah.
familiar to me. I totally understand where you're coming from. Like,
Oh, wow.
flipping
That's
this,
wild.
pulling the sleeve out, flipping it around backwards. Like, no, this one's fine. Or like
Yeah.
opening it to a different page and like, that's actually the cover.
Yeah.
Or immediately just throwing it in the CD binder and chucking the container and the sleeve and
Yeah,
everything.
so it's only the CD.
Yep.
Oh, I didn't think of that.
I had to be crafty. I was desperate. My parents were they were a little more relaxed with that stuff than I'm probably making them sound, but I was like just overly cautious. I didn't want my CDs to get taken away. So I was preemptively, but before they even ask any questions, we're just going to ditch some of this material.
You planned. That's good. That's smart.
Smart, crafty, conniving.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know which one it is, but maybe some combination.
Do what you gotta do.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So your first bands, when you were playing with those, like, what did that look like? Were you more of a band leader role? Were you the songwriter? Were you playing covers? How did that shake out?
I've never played in a cover band. Ironically, I was always interested in like writing my own music. The first band that I joined, they were like this metalcore band from the Bay Area, and I remember like trying out to be in that band, which is actually a funny story because like I don't know how I found them or found that they needed like a guitar player. Maybe it was some like, I don't know, MySpace post or some.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, and I just sent them, they asked for some like videos of me playing guitar. So I sent them some videos, and I remember like talking to the singer at the time, and we're still friends actually. Mike McKelvey, shout out.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah. So one of my oldest friends. And I remember him saying something like, hey, so the rest of the guys in the band, they don't think like you're actually playing that stuff in the video. So like, can you come down and actually play it for them?
Okay.
And I was like, so that was kind of my first experience, like feeling like, what? Like, what do you mean? Like,
that's interesting.
So yeah, that was like, I don't know. I felt like, why do they think that I'm not playing this? So
because
I went
you're
down
a woman, or I don't know.
Yeah, should we just say it?
Yeah. Like, is that really what it was? I mean, I can't think of.
Yeah, probably. I mean, what was this like? God,
2005 or something.
Before that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when I graduated high school. So that was
same.
I don't know, probably like 5 years before that.
Yeah, we're in the exact same era. That's when I graduated high school.
Yeah, I was like 15. I was like 15 years old. So that was when I first joined like a band.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I went down and like tried out, and like it was all good, and like I was in the band after that, and then from there, like I kind of got more into like the hardcore scene, because it was very like all the shows were kind of fused with like hardcore and metal.
Mm-hmm.
So I had friends like both sides, and ended up like playing for a bunch of hardcore bands. Yeah, I played in like a straight edge hardcore band at one point, and then I started like the first band that I started on my own was called Through This Defiance, and that was like really my first like baby like project that I just went like gung ho with.
Mm-hmm.
Like we ended up like writing an album, tracking it, and then booking like a sort of world tour within like 3 months. And then just went for it.
Wow.
So yeah, that was my first kind of like experience with like the work ethic that goes into starting a band and managing yourself, and booking everything, and just everything you can think of, from the ground up. Very, very DIY.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's pretty intense to go from nothing to world tour in 3 months. I don't know if I've ever heard of anybody doing that, actually.
Booking tours on Facebook. I mean, I would just like scout out local promoters, like you name it, in like Slovakia, and even we went to South Africa. So it was just kind of like finding these people, asking around. Actually, my friends from this band CDC from Pennsylvania, I remember getting their contact because they used to play all these random shows around the world, and they went to South Africa and they played like a show in Israel, and they were very like DIY hardcore band too. So it was all just like networking and being like, oh, who's the guy that like booked your South Africa thing? And then how did you guys do that? Like, oh, well, we just booked the tour in Europe, and then from there the flights are cheaper, so you fly to South Africa. And you know, like we had no money. Like
Right.
I remember going on tour with like $400 to my name and being like, all right, well, I hope the van doesn't break down, or I'm sure if it does, we'll have some merch money to fix it.
Fingers crossed. So, yeah.
That's like how I was living my life. So, you know, it was like on the road, like 7 months out of the year, just kind of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like early 20s, like my first like experience touring and being in my own band and everything.
Mm-hmm. So how far into this? It seems like pretty far, but were there a lot of bands that came after that, or when did Kallias become the main focus?
Kallias came much later. Like,
look at me saying the word wrong all this whole time. Like I thought I knew.
Some people say Kallias, some people say Kallias. Yeah, I say Kallias.
Kallias.
Yeah, either works. It's a Greek word, so I don't expect everyone to. It actually means beauty in Greek. Yeah,
it sounds so much more intense than that in the Greek form.
That's not really why we picked it. It just, I don't know. I guess it looked good on paper at the time. It was short and sweet, and we're like, oh,
yeah.
There wasn't like too much thought that went into it. Mm-hmm. So no elaborate story there, but. Like Kallias started, it's been about 2019. So right before the pandemic. So I guess that makes us a pandemic band.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was probably, was this your first attempt at writing kind of across the country, or had you already participated in some projects like that?
No, I was already living in New York, and I had actually moved to New York, I don't know, like maybe 7 years before that, because I got an offer to join this like kind of progressive, a little bit more mainstream sounding metal band. Mm-hmm. So that was like my initial shift into like more progressive music. And then, you know, that band was a band for like a few years, and we played a lot of like local shows and stuff like that. And then I started like an instrumental band after that, because I wanted to just focus on like prog and like instrumental music. So Kallias came after that band, and here we are.
Here we are
in the prog world. Yeah. So yeah, neck deep now in the prog world. Prog death metal. I have to say, prog death.
Yeah, I think you definitely, because prog could mean Rush. So
I know. Yeah. So that's why I've been like kind of just toning in on like the prog death thing.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
So a lot of death metal elements in there.
Yeah. So we kind of lightly touched on it, but I feel like there maybe you probably have some more things to talk about let's just like we said, get out there and say it. It's a pretty male dominated world, especially in this genre. Yeah. Have you experienced beyond, you know, that initial one we talked about, any pushback or resistance, or has it largely been accepting? What's your experience been like trying to make a career in this world?
I'll say when I first started, there was definitely a lot of pushback, and my first experiences with that were obviously on the road. You know, it's just like the typical, you know, showing up to the venue and they don't know like what you're doing there. They're like, oh, are you like the merch person? Or, you know, and after a while, like I just kind of started saying yes. I'm like, yeah, like where do I set up? and then I would, you know, go on stage or whatever.
You were probably going to set it up anyway because it's all DIY, right?
Of course, yeah, I'm setting it up anyway. So at least, yeah, just tell me where the merch goes, you know, like, and then you get like the apologies later, like, oh, I didn't know you were in the band, blah blah blah, and like it's all good, it's whatever. You know, it doesn't happen so much anymore, which is cool because now I feel like there's such a strong presence for women in metal, which is awesome. So now it's like, yeah, of course, you still have those Neanderthals out there that think you should be washing dishes instead of, playing metal. But
yeah, we don't care about them anyway, so it's fine.
Yeah, I think it's quite comical, to be honest.
Right.
So I welcome all those comments, sure.
Yeah.
Unless
sure.
they're like very, very derogatory, like, sure, comment whatever you want, help my analytics,
Right.
please.
Yeah. Bump me in this stupid algorithm that we got to deal with.
I usually just thank them for their engagement. I'm like, thank you for watching and engaging.
I was laughing about that the other day, not this specifically, but just trolls, because I was talking to somebody who doesn't do any content or anything. And I said, what the trolls don't realize is if they really don't like you, the worst thing they could do is ignore you.
Yeah.
They could just not say anything. They could scroll on by as soon as your face appears in their feed. Anything they could do to lessen the attention on your posts is actually the worst thing they could do. But instead, they're going in there and spending way more time than I would ever spend on anything I didn't like.
Yeah, exactly.
And
it's like there's two types of people in this world.
Yeah.
People that mind their own business, and then the other.
I'm just like, if I don't like it, then bye. Like, I've got too many other things I do like that I'd rather spend time with rather than waste time on things.
You have a life, basically.
I try to.
Okay.
I do
Good
my
to
best.
know.
Yeah. I do my best. Spend a little too much screen time probably for health. Then is probably normally considered healthy, but so it goes.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think we all do.
Yeah, for sure.
So
let's talk about, this is supposedly a guitar podcast, so maybe we should talk about the guitars. What did your rig look like? Starting with, you were playing with a lot of the hardcore bands, and you expanded out from there. Like, how did your rig change over the years? Because you were always into heavier stuff, and I know that has had sort of varying formats. If you look at it, like when we were coming up, everyone was playing 5150s and Mesa Boogies and things like that, and that's still pretty common. But now there's a trend towards digital. What does this all look like for you?
So my rig has gotten much more complicated over the years.
Ooh,
and then sort of
like that.
Getting a little simpler. I don't know. I've done like this, So I started playing with just a Mesa Boogie triple rectifier and a noise suppressor pedal and a tuner and a guitar. And that was it.
Hey.
And that's how I toured for years.
That doesn't suck.
And then when I started getting more into prog stuff, I'm like, okay, I want to start exploring some like cool effects. And I got the Axe Effects. I got the Axe Effects Ultra and the MFC 101 controller. And then I was running that out of the effects loop of my Mesa Live. And that was my rig for a few years. Actually, I used the Axe Effects for many, many years. And it was great. That thing was a workhorse until the Quad Cortex came out and finally sold the Axe Effects. I mean, it was like kind of a dinosaur at that point, right? Like I was still using the Ultra. I'm like, it works. Like it does everything I want it to do.
I've heard a lot of people take that almost exact same journey. They've held on to the Ultra for a long time.
Yeah. So, when the Quad Cortex came out, I was already a neural artist, like with all their plugins. And, I went on a pretty long hiatus from playing shows. It was definitely like a few years where I didn't play any shows. So I was just writing, putting out like little EPs and singles and, doing everything at home. So the plugins, the neural plugins were very convenient. And it was actually like one of my first experiences with using guitar plugins. So it was cool to just kind of like try these different sounds. And like, I would always get inspired whenever they would put out a new plugin. I was doing a lot of demo videos for them, like right when they would come out. And this was like years ago too. But yeah, and then they came out the Quad Cortex and I'm like, all right, I think, this seems like a really convenient thing to take on the road, like play live and not have to lug around a bunch of amps. And of course, like I kind of went through this transition where I was like, bi-coastal and then like moving back and forth from like New York to LA, New York, LA. Now I'm finally in LA permanently, but all of my amps are in New York.
Oh, geez.
And I had moved them already from LA, like out. I moved them twice, like across the coast. So now I'm just like, I can't keep, I don't know, I can't keep doing that. I need to just like really downsize my rig, because when I had the Axe FX, I had pretty much the biggest pedal train that you can get, because that MFC 101 controller was so big and
huge.
Heavy.
Yeah.
And I was running that with like, the power supply, a Digitech whammy, and I think I had like a volume pedal, and like a noise suppressor. Not even that much stuff, but it took a large pedal train to put all of that in there. So if you could imagine, like I was lugging that around before, like with a Mesa full stack, and I'm just like, it's like that meme video that I've seen going around where like, different band members and how they load in, like, everyone else in the band, like the singer just walks in with nothing. And then like the drummer like has his drums, and then you see like a semi backing into the venue and it's like the guitar player.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I felt.
Yes.
So I'm like, I can't keep doing this. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy right now with just having like, I have this little like mono, I think it's like the medium pedal board thing.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I
those are nice and slim too.
Oh yeah, it's super slim. It's like a little briefcase, and I have my quad Cortex on there, and my power supply is tucked underneath, so you can't even see it. And then I have a Morley wah boost. So I didn't even I ditched the volume pedal because I'm like, I don't want to upgrade to the bigger size. Like I just want to
Mm-hmm.
So I literally just have two pedals on it, and it's so convenient. So I can either go direct from the quad into front of house with the cab sims on. But for this next tour we're doing, starting August 25th, like when our record comes out, I'm actually going to be running it through a power amp.
Sweet.
So yeah, we're going to have stage sound because we're playing like really small venues. And I feel like that was kind of like a mistake we made in the beginning, was like, oh, we'll just go direct. Right. But then there's like no stage sound at like a really small venue.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it'll be nice. We'll be playing like out of cabs and like power amps. So.
Hi, I'm Vincent, and I'm here to talk about the Maris Mercury X. My dad's always going on about how cool Maris is. He really went off on one about the Mercury X the other day. He said something about a 4800 hertz sample rate and 99 preset locations and 33 banks, and something along the lines of the most advanced reverb pedal ever devised by man? That's all true, but I only care about one thing. This pedal sounds sick. So make sure you check out the Mercury X and all the other fine products at maris.us, as well as fine retailers worldwide. All right, Dad, now can I have my talkie?
How exactly do artists get their music on Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Tidal, all these services? How in the world do you get your music there? Well, in the past, you had to use something called a record label. But these days, you can use DistroKid. DistroKid is the absolute easiest way to get your music up on streaming services, and it's the most affordable way to do so. Not only do plans start at $22.99 for the entire year, that's less than $2 a month, DistroKid also does not take a cut of your streaming revenue, unlike some other services out there. Even better if you sign up by going to tonemob.com/distrokid. That's tonemob.com/distrokid. One more time, that's tonemob.com/distrokid. You'll get 30% off. That's right, 30% off their already extremely reasonable prices. So go to tonemob.com/distrokid and get your music out there. Have you done any run-throughs with that setup yet? How does it? Because I was curious how it compares to having like a real tube amp behind you.
I mean, my opinion, I think the quad cortex is the closest it gets.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't done like a demo video myself of it, but I do remember watching someone doing a comparison between like the Kemper and the quad, and the quad kind of like was more accurate sounding as far as like the captures of a tube amp than the Kemper was. So it's very, very close.
The models, I can't remember. Captures is what the Kemper calls them, right? And then they're all some variation of the same idea. Do you do like captures of your amps, or do you use the integrated stuff?
I did capture my EVH 5153 Stealth.
Nice.
So I do have that in my tones, and kind of mix it with some other things as well.
Very cool. Very cool. Mm-hmm. Well, let's run some through some of the guitars. It's funny because whenever I talk about rigs and I like ask people to do what you just did, I think that most people would assume everyone would start with their guitars, but almost everybody starts with their amps and pedals, and then we get to this point and we're like, yeah, but you're playing guitar.
What about the guitars? Yeah.
Which I totally understand because I'm a complete pedal nerd. So I'd probably start with my pedal board if somebody asked me that question. So, but yeah, guitar wise, you mentioned you were an EVH artist for a while. About when did that happen, and when did the switch to Jackson? I know they're related, but when did the switch to Jackson happen?
I've been with EVH for quite a while. The switch to Jackson happened in 2020.
Okay.
I was with a really small like boutique Italian company before that, called Luteria Rocks. And it was one guy, Marco, and he would build all my guitars. Like he built me 3 really beautiful, amazing sounding guitars that I still have tucked away. And, at one point, I was like, okay, I think I'm ready for, something different. And, I was already with EVH. So I know my rep was like kind of nudging before that, like, oh, are you ready to like come to Jackson? And, I feel like when I like, guitar that I'm playing, I'm like, oh, I don't really have like a reason to switch just yet. But of course, like you grow and like over time, like you want to try different things. And I'm so happy like I made the switch because these guitars are just so beautiful and play amazing. And the first custom they made me is, basically my dream guitar that Joe Williams brought to life. So it's like I designed this crazy guitar and, put some stuff on it that Jackson had never done before.
Ooh.
So they were so I ended up putting a piezo on my 8-string.
Oh.
So there's a so there's a piezo pickup in it, and I had never seen that done before on an 8-string. And I got the idea because I don't know, I went and saw Opeth, of course, and like I was there and I'm just like, how, like when they were playing their clean sections, I'm like, they're not like, they don't backtrack. How are they getting that tone? Like it sounds so like acoustic and clean, and just like you can hear like the little nuances in there. I'm like, it must be like a piezo or something. And I'm like, I need to put a piezo on this 8-string, like extended range, like so I can play clean stuff with it. And and I had never like seen that been done before. But I think actually a couple years later, that the Petrucci model came out, the 8-string, and he put a piezo on it. I'm like, oh, nice. So so now people like, there's like an 8-string out there that people can buy that has a piezo on it.
You got my wheels turning as soon as you said that. So I just got my first 8-string last year. And now I'm like, what would that be? I can't help it. Every time I hear about a new idea, I immediately like, I don't know that would even work for me, but I want to try it. Yeah,
it's pretty cool. I got the Schaller like Hans 8 piezo. So that's the one. I don't even know if another one exists. Like that was I mean, I've been using Schaller stuff for a while,
Mm-hmm.
like the tuners and everything, and or the bridges. And yeah, that was the only one that was out there. There wasn't a lot of like info on it. I think there was one really old YouTube demo that I found, and it was like the only guy that had ever like done a demo on it. And I'm like, I hope this sounds good.
Fingers crossed.
And yeah, it does. I also went through. I have custom DiMarzios in my my custom Jackson as well. That we went through a few different prototypes to get like the right tone for the like specific woods that are in my custom.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a kind of a cool process too, is like, like kind of giving them feedback and like giving them DIs of like other guitars that like I really like the way the pickups sound. Because to me, it's like you never really know how good a pickup sounds until you sit down and record with it and you listen back to those DIs.
Absolutely.
Like I feel like that's where the true colors kind of come out. Like you can't tell when you're just playing through like your amp or your plugin or whatever. It's like sometimes you can even just see it in the sound wave. So I definitely had like this vision for like what I wanted it to sound like, on paper. And yeah, they brought that to life. And there's actually a knob on my custom where you can use just the DiMarzios, and then the second position is a blend between the DiMarzios and the piezo, and then the third position is just the piezo. So I'm actually favoring, like for a lot of the cleans that we did on the record, I used the blend because it just has like that extra push, and it's like the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Because just the piezo alone is like, it's very quiet.
Yeah. Yep. But
So
it gives you that
gotta,
articulation when it's combined with the other pickups.
Yeah, you get the best of both worlds when you combine them, and it really does sound like an acoustic 8-string. So I'm excited for people to hear that on the record, and you can actually hear it quite a bit on this new track that we just released on Thursday. Lungta to Everlasting released a music video for it, and there's like quite a few clean sections and like strumming in there where you can hear it sounds like very acoustic.
Pulling back the curtain a little bit, I got to hear the new record. I listened to a good chunk of it while I was on the plane to Gear Fest is when we started talking. And
Nice.
I was actually going to ask you about that specifically. I was wondering how you guys did all that. So very cool. Yeah, that answers the question. You read my mind.
Yeah, neural plugins and piezo on the 8-string.
Which neural plugins do you use specifically when you're recording?
For cleans, my favorite is Pliny or the Archetype Petrucci, which the Archetype Petrucci actually comes with a piezo head. So it was very fitting. I was really stoked when they released that plugin, because I'm like, this is going to sound amazing with my 8-string piezo, because Petrucci just put out an 8-string with a piezo in it. So
Right.
Of course it's going to be tailored for that. So yeah, I was really stoked, and like, made some like custom like presets on that as well. And yeah, so, and then like I've always loved Pliny for cleans.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the neural stuff's good. I've only made one song with neural stuff. And it's a completely different thing, but I used the Archetype Corey Wong, and I was...
Oh, that one's great too.
Yeah, I was really surprised. I went to my friend Daniel's place to record the track, and, I just have like a ridiculous amount of pedals, and I pretty much play those like a synth player, almost more than a guitar player. And when I was like, I think, because his studio is kind of small, so I knew we would be using plugins primarily, and I thought, well, maybe I'll use my Benson plugin, because I like that one a lot. I'm a Benson fanboy. And I plugged into the Corey Wong, and because he already had the session all up, and I was like, well, we'll try it and see. And I plugged in, and I was like, yeah, this is going to work great. Never mind, we'll just put the rest of my stuff away. And
nice.
Go
yeah,
with that.
That one's amazing. Justin and I did a demo for that when that came out together. So that was fun.
Super cool. Super cool.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I wanted to talk to you about, and I haven't actually gotten to get into this with anybody, but you do, or at least I know you have a streaming setup, and I know that you've done a lot of streaming. To me, that seems a lot more prevalent in the metal community than in other genres, I guess. I don't know why that is or how that happened. If everybody just saw Matt from Trivium start streaming and thought maybe that was a good idea, or what
And
happened
Herman
there.
Lee.
Yeah,
right?
Herman Lee, right? Exactly. So
yeah, I think they paved the way.
So wait, what has that done for you, and what is it like? I'm so unplugged from the streaming world. Like, I don't really go on Twitch. I just don't. But like, what has that done for you, and what does that look like in general? What are people's motivations for being live all the time?
So I started streaming in 2020, and honestly, it was such a blessing and a lifesaver to be involved in that community, especially at the time. Because, like, I think a lot of people had a rough time in 2020.
Oh, yeah.
And I went through like a complete like redo, like start from the ground up again, lost my job. And people had kind of been telling me for a long time, like, oh, you should be streaming and blah, blah, blah. And I just never really got around to it. And then I just made the jump one day. I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this. Like, I'm going to try to do this full time. Like, I wasn't working. I'm like, I have the time. I need to like learn how to set everything up and actually like be consistent with this and build a community. And then, making some money doing it was just like kind of a surprise and like a plus. And also, a lifesaver at the time because I wasn't working.
Sure.
It was like I was looking for jobs, like getting so discouraged, like looking for jobs in like a new industry too. So, yeah, it was really great. I started streaming on Twitch, and the whole community was so welcoming. And there's a huge metal community on there, and eventually, like, I got connected to the Twitch team and the artist relations there. And they got me set up and got me some front page features. And I started doing charities to, kind of like give back and all sorts of like events and giveaways. I ended up hosting an event to fund the production of this new record that is coming out.
So cool.
And so that's actually part of the story with this new record, is that the production was actually funded by the Twitch community.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Like, I was just mind blown, like at the generosity of like, this really like tight group of fans that, I had built on Twitch, and, everyone supporting each other. Scott Carstairs was actually like a huge inspiration because, he really started pushing like me and Justin like to start streaming, and Justin helped me a lot with like, the technical side of things, like setting up the stream and all the audio routing and the stuff that I was just get so frustrated with.
Sure.
Because I started streaming on a Mac and I'm just like, nothing works, you know? And then he kind of like pushed me that like, oh, you need to get like a PC, and because he's like been a PC guy. So I had like a custom PC built, and he set everything up for me. And now like, yeah, it works pretty well. I mean, every once in a while, of course, like you got to troubleshoot stuff, but that's just, I think, part of streaming.
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, it's been really amazing. And this last year, I slowed down quite a bit with streaming because I started working full time again last year. So, like the priorities kind of shifted, and I do work Monday through Friday. Luckily, like I'm working creating audio production content. So
well, that's cool.
That's really cool too. I work for a recording school, a film school, and I'm making like educational audio production content. So, I'm doing that. So now like really I'm kind of just streaming when there's like a special occasion or like a release or some, like if I'm doing like a charity event or something like that. So yeah, it's
Very
been
cool.
great.
And for you, because I know streams can be almost anything. So for you, is there a typical stream? What does that look like? Or what would you recommend to somebody who's maybe stream curious, but had never really gotten into Twitch before?
Yeah. So, I mean, a really popular thing to do on Twitch is, to have like a cover, like a song list. So you learn like a bunch of covers and then people can pick which songs they want you to play from that list. I would, of course, like always play like the Kallias set. And then there would be days where like I would just take requests and then I would have a list of like, I don't know, I learned something like 25, 30 songs. And it was all like a mix of like prog and like death metal songs that people could choose from. And then I would also do like music production streams. So I would sit there like in Cubase and I would either be writing or like editing stuff or, I think like recently, the last couple of months, I did like a couple like synth design streams because I've been getting more into like synth stuff lately. So really you can do anything, and of course the vibe is always different between like the music production streams and then like the cover like performance ones where you're like got the green screen going and you're like headbanging and it's more of like a party,
right?
But then like the music production ones are just they're just more chill, like you're just kind of like hanging out and watching someone's process, or like I've also done streams where I've actually sat there in Guitar Pro and like was learning a song.
Oh wow.
So there's so many different ways to like mix it up, and it's cool because like once you have that like tight niche community, a lot of the time they're just there for it the whole time, or they just have it on in the background and like they can kind of chime in and chat or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just depends. Like if you want to like just see like performance, like live performance, there's tons of people that are doing that. Or if you want to see like people's process and their writing process or learning process, production, there's a lot of stuff like that out there as well.
Very cool. Very, very cool. Yeah, it's a weird time to think back now that we're on the other side of it, as weird as that sounds to say. But back then we were all very much just trying to figure out what we were going to do. For me, it didn't change as much as for other people because I'd already been a couple years into being out here in the shed by myself.
I love it. I love the shed vibe, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, I do love it out here. It is my little hobbit hole away from the world, which is good and bad at times. I can tend to stay out here a little too long. Have to remember to take breaks sometimes. But yeah, it is a blessing to be able to have this space and do basically whatever I want. That said, yeah, it was interesting to see everybody else make that transition like a little bit after and try to figure it out. And I was like, and so many people were like, "Hey, how you doing? That's got to be real weird, right?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know. For me, it's kind of normal." So.
Yeah. You're like, I'm already a hermit in this little shed. So
which is weird because I am an extrovert. I do like people. So it was weird from going to a place where I see people every day to not before I was forced to. But I've managed to figure it out. And, I talk to people a lot. So that's helpful. Like doing these is my favorite thing I get to do is to do the podcast. And now I'm finally getting to have people come here and do them here again, which was just starting to happen.
Oh, cool.
And then lockdown happened. And so it kind of set that all back. And now people are starting to come over again, which is really, really enjoyable. So if you ever find yourself in the Portland area with a free day, we can do a live podcast in person.
Portland.
We are brought to you today by Sweetwater, specifically the Gear Exchange. You may have heard about this. This is a place where you can go to buy and sell your used gear. Maybe you got a pedal over there that's just kind of collecting dust. Maybe there's something you've been eyeing from the Sweetwater catalog. Well, right now is a great time to turn that unused gear into something you're actually going to use. Even better, if you sell on the gear exchange, you can keep 100% of the sale as long as you choose a Sweetwater gift card as your payout method. That is not too shabby because, let's be honest, most of this buying and selling we do is just to fund new gear purchases, and that is a great way to reach a wide variety of customers and keep 100% in your pocket, or rather on your pedal board. So go check out the Sweetwater Gear Exchange and turn that unused gear into something that's actually going to help you write that next huge riff.
Hello there. I'd like to introduce you to your new best friend, the Chase Bliss Audio Lossy. Lossy is a collaboration between Chase Bliss and Goodhertz. And it's meant to give you some control over those weird digital artifacts that come with very compressed audio. You're hearing it right now. All the changes that are taking place are strictly coming from my playing dynamics. I'm just interacting with the pedal and letting it do its thing. In some true stereo goodness. If you'd like some more details about Lossy, I'd invite you to head over to chaseblissaudio.com. I think you're going to like what you find.
Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we got to do a more extended West Coast tour.
Absolutely.
We're only doing like California and Vegas on this run. So yeah, we'll expand further on the next one.
That'd be very cool. One thing I wanted to talk to you about personally, mostly from a selfish point of view, your vocals. Your vocals are, I used to be able to scream. I used to have a pretty good hardcore voice, and I kind of lost it. And I'm back in the day, I was followed like the Melissa Cross DVDs and stuff. Do you remember those?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I got pretty good at it, and I was doing it quote unquote correctly. And I just completely lost that skill over years as I stopped playing in those type of bands. And now I'm a better singer, like regular clean singer, but I've completely lost my screaming ability, at least for more than like 30 seconds. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. Because I'm doing it wrong again. I'm just falling back into the old, just force it out, you know?
Yeah,
and
you can't do that.
It's bad. It's bad. So do you have any tips for somebody who's, trying to get back into doing the harsh vocals? Because you're very good at them.
Well, I would say technique is everything with that, because you don't want to ruin your vocal cords and just scratch things up in that box there.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the best way to know if you're doing it right or wrong is if it hurts,
mm-hmm.
and if it feels uncomfortable, stop.
Okay.
You're doing it wrong.
I'm definitely doing it wrong.
And also, at least like 10 minutes of warm up
mm-hmm.
before. And if you're really new, I would probably even do longer than that.
Okay.
So a lot of the time it's like warming up your fry vocals. So it's, something as simple as like doing
mm-hmm.
that for a while. So sometimes I'll just do that and mouth out the words for a whole song before actually incorporating the false chords, which is more of the
mm-hmm.
kind of like when you're taking a big sigh and then really combining those and projecting a little bit more.
Yeah.
You should be able to do that for a long time and not feel any sort of discomfort.
Okay.
And then there's also breathing exercises that you can do as well. So
mm-hmm.
yeah, it's a lot of kind of breath control, taking in a lot of air and then letting it out really slowly, just
mm-hmm.
to kind of not let go of all your words at once and then you're out of breath.
Right. Well, and then that force too
mm-hmm.
puts a lot of strain on your voice. If you're just shoving all the air out like people typically do when they start trying to scream or do harsh vocals, that's also, if I'm understanding correctly, putting extra strain on your voice that doesn't really need to be there. It doesn't get you anything.
Yeah. Essentially, everything should be relaxed in here, but all the intensity is kind of aesthetic, right? Like you make those intense kind of facial expressions. I was taught like show your teeth. Actually, Rasta from Decapitated was my vocal coach.
Oh, wow.
In the beginning.
That's cool.
So yeah, I owe a lot to him. He got me ready to track in like 3 months. So I was kind of in a bind because we added vocals like pretty last minute. And we had been looking for a vocalist for a while, but it was also the pandemic. So it's like, hey, do you want to join this project that we just started? And like, you know what I mean? It's just like, no. Yeah. Like I'm trying to look for a job.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to survive.
So,
yeah.
Exactly. So at one point I'm just like, you know what? Like, just how hard could it be? I'm going to do this myself. And then I, took the lessons with Rafal from Decapitated, and he got me ready in a few months to track Supermassive, which was the first track that we put out with vocals.
Wow.
And even since then, I feel like my voice has really evolved, and I feel like it's, I don't know, has more depth and like texture to it than it did from that first single that we put out. Which really like my bandmates were, and like other people were telling me that, because you don't really notice yourself like over time, like these kind of changes. But when other people start to tell you like, oh, your vocals are like, they're developing and like they're getting better. And I'm like, oh, they are. I'm like, okay, that's good to know. Like I'm practicing and like, doing all my proper warm-ups and everything. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey, I'll have to say. And like learning how to do vocals and play guitar at the same time.
Oh man.
Let me tell you, like because Supermassive, the music had been written for a while, right, and we were performing it instrumentally for a while. And then adding vocals is like, and I made the mistake of like, I wrote out lyrics or whatever, and I didn't have my guitar in my hand. I'm like, all right, these lyrics will go. And then when I sat down with the guitar and tried to like mouth everything, I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. It was so far off that I was like, I like just shot myself in the foot. Like, I don't think, whatever. So then I started like trying to practice, like, how do you sing and play guitar at the same time? And how do you do it when it's two different patterns? I'm like, this is literally why I am not a drummer, because I can't split my brain like that, So yeah, I did have like a moment of panic there. And of course, like with anything else, you just have to keep at it and keep practicing. And eventually I got it. So that's just like one more challenge that I have now. But since then, I've at least more strategically written lyrics with my guitar in hand, like knowing like, okay, these are the word. This is like the downstroke where I'm going to say a word, and this is where I'm going to take a breath. And, so I'm a little bit more mindful about it now. So I'm not like really having to split my brain. And I think there's only one instance live where I have to do like a performance version, like a simpler thing on guitar, because the vocals are a little more technical there. So, but that's pretty much it for the most part. Like everything else, like playing the same.
Yeah. I've done a lot of playing and singing at the same time, but it's all strummy chord stuff. It's like, it's not that difficult to put together, or punk rock stuff where it's like, it all just kind of, you're only doing one pattern. You're not really shifting things around. But when you started talking about that, because you said you didn't start out as a vocalist, my wheels immediately started turning. I'm like, but those patterns she's playing and singing at the same time, if hasn't been the focus since day one, that had to have been challenging. So I'm glad you went over that, because it's a different thing when you're doing more complicated proggy type guitars and trying to sing anything, regardless of what it is. It automatically gets more complicated and nuanced. So I'm glad to hear your story there. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're getting close to the tail end of the podcast, and I do have a couple classic questions I like to ask the guests to wrap these episodes up before we slide over to Patreon. But before I do that, I like to give the guests the floor, give you the chance to shout out anybody you want to shout out, plug anything you want to plug, say anything you want to say to a couple thousand people right now. The floor is yours.
Yeah, so we just released another single off our upcoming record. It's called Lungta 2 Everlasting. Directed, shot, edited the music video for that with the help of my bandmates and Steph Avias. And we have more videos coming out when the album drops on August 25th, which also is our record release show here in Southern California. And that show kicks off our West Coast tour with Cyborg Octopus. So make sure you guys are on the lookout for the tour if you guys are on the West Coast. And I can't wait for you guys to hear the new record, First Ascent.
You're gonna like it. Everybody go check it out. When it comes out, you are going to like it. All right, classic questions. Here we go. First one, we didn't really talk about this too much, so I'll be curious to see what your answer is. What is your favorite Boss pedal?
I think I've only owned besides the tuner and the noise suppressor. Let's just say the noise suppressor. The Boss noise suppressor is amazing.
It's
right?
incredible. Yeah, it's a great noise suppressor, and it does some tricks that not all noise suppressors can do. Even though it's been out for however long, the noise suppressor has been out for a long time.
It's such a staple thing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like.
Yeah. NS2, right? Yes, NS2.
Yeah, NS2.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I used that thing for over 10 years. Yeah, it was great.
It's killer, and it won't die either. You can't kill it, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I always had it plugged into source, so.
Fingers crossed.
Oh, you mean just like the pedal just dies
it just
on
won't.
its own?
Yeah, they're indestructible. Yeah, you can throw it off a bridge or whatever. All right, final question. This one's a little dicier, a little more controversial. What is your favorite kind of pizza?
Ooh, truffle mushroom.
Ooh, truffle mushroom. Particular pizzeria or regional style, or insert as much detail as you'd like.
I mean, of course, if it's like a classic, Italian style pizza. But yeah, I don't have a specific pizzeria or anything. But I'm just a big fan of mushrooms and truffles. And so, yeah, if there's a truffle pizza, like a truffle mushroom pizza on a menu somewhere, I'm getting it. Yeah,
I feel that. I feel like mushrooms they're an underrated pizza topping. I understand some people aren't as into them for texture reasons, but I am a big mushroom fan. I love mushrooms in general. I'll just eat a mushroom. And yeah,
I'm vegetarian too, so I eat a lot of mushrooms because I feel like it. I don't know, it has that more meatier texture. Mm-hmm. So I make a lot of I'll make meat sauces, but out of mushrooms.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah,
I love it. Well, Nicole, thank you so much for hanging out. This has been a good time. I've been looking forward to this for quite a while. So thank you very much for taking the time to come talk to all of us nerds and hang out.
Yes, I'm a nerd too. So thanks for having me.
Perfect. Well, let's see what other nerdy stuff we can get into on Patreon. Does that sound good?
Yes.
All right, everybody. For Nicole, this is Blake. And as always, folks, good luck and good tones. All right, folks, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to check out the new Kallias album. It's coming out very, very soon. The links are down in the show notes for the website and Nicole's social media and all of that groovy stuff. Please make sure you check that out. And if you want to hear more, if you want to hear about an extremely harrowing ice climbing experience, some free soloing, some unexpected free soloing at that, you can go to Patreon, where for $5 a month, you too can get access to bonus episodes every single week, and you help support the show. And $5 also gets you the ad-free feed, or $3 if you just want the ad-free feed. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out. I will talk to you very, very soon. Thank you for everything. Bye-bye. One last thing before we totally sign off here. I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.
Hey, this is Chris Swinney, formerly of the Ataris and currently host of That One Time on Tour, part of the Sound Talent Media Podcast Network. Have you ever wondered what it's really like on the road? The highs can be euphoric, but the lows can be crushing. Join me every week as I chat with industry pros about what it's like living out their wildest dream and, in some cases, their worst nightmare. Past guests of the show include members of NoFX, Pennywise, Bad Religion, and more. Listen and subscribe at soundtalentmedia.com.
Hey there, I am Johnny Christ from Avenged Sevenfold, and I've got a podcast called Drinks with Johnny you're going to want to check out. I sit down with a bunch of different people from all different walks of life, from professional wrestlers to actors, comedians, fighters, musicians, everything in between. I'm just looking to make some friends and have a good time doing it. So if that sounds like something you're into, go check out Drinks with Johnny, streaming everywhere now.